What's up to all my freelancers, designers, and creatives? This is Nathan. Welcome to another episode of Freelance Jumpstart. At the time of this recording, last weekend I actually had the opportunity to speak at a conference. I went to WordCamp DFW or WordCamp Dallas-Fort Worth, and I got to speak to a bunch of developers, designers, coaches. The list goes on, but many creatives, and we got to talk about something that's very specific. Now, the talk I did was called Agency of One, and the whole premise behind that was how can creatives collaborate with one another to get larger projects? How can you become an agency even if you're one person? And as I talked about that, I got tons of feedback. Many people said they really enjoyed the talk, and there's tons of value there. Like I said, I'll have that for you coming up, but I wanted to take a moment to go a little deeper into something that I highlighted during the talk. I only had about 40 minutes or so to do the talk, so I couldn't go as deep as I wanted to, but I wanted to call out that thing. And the thing I'm referring to is positioning, or what I also like to call perception. I've actually talked about in the past what you should call yourself, that you should not refer to yourself as a freelancer. That was episode 67 of this podcast, and the episode right after it, 68, was about why your job title matters, which was a conversation with myself and Corey McCabe, and we're talking about the importance of job titles. But more specifically with positioning, and if you're really thinking about positioning yourself to get higher value clients, or asking yourself a question, how come clients are not coming to me? Or how come I can't find those large projects, those large clients? How come I can't find the small business that has quite a bit of money to spend because they've been given a grant by the city? How come I can't find or work with people like Nike or Target or Starbucks? Are they only going to agencies, or do I as an individual have a chance? Now the answer is yes, absolutely. You do have a chance to work with these companies and to get these high value, high budget clients. That is true. However, before you actually start moving forward and trying to pursue these types of clients, there's a specific thing that you have to do with your positioning. And for this conversation, I will classify positioning as two things. One being price. What price you set will really determine how people perceive the value you have to offer. And the second thing is positioning, also is perception. When someone looks at how you carry yourself, your branding, your website, your pricing is a part of that. When they look at everything it is that you have to offer, what is their perception? What do they look at when it comes to your business, and what are their first opinions? Or in other words, perception will determine the level of confidence clients have that you can deliver what you promise. So first, let's look at price. I've talked about this before on the podcast, but I wanted to bring it up again because it's just of utmost importance, and I really think people underestimate the importance of what I'm saying as it relates to price. So when it comes to pricing, people tend to forget that a price also is a part of branding. A price also is a part of forming people's perception on how good you are. Here's a good example. So if I were to sell a laptop, right? This is a laptop. If I were to sell an Apple MacBook Pro with all the features, upgraded all the RAM and everything, and I was willing to sell it for $5, would you buy it? The truth is, you would hesitate on buying what I'm offering because the price is so low, you'd start to become skeptical. You start to say, it's not really worth all that money or really worth all that saving if what I'm going to buy cannot guarantee that it is going to work. Or in other words, the price is so inexpensive, the opposite starts to happen. I start to distrust that the laptop really can do what it says it can do. So this introduces the concept of the fact that pricing tends to be set in the mind of someone before you even present anything to them. They've formulated their own opinions through their experiences, through different things they've purchased themselves. They've formulated their own assumptions, or really their own biases, on how much something should cost. So most people watching this video know buying a laptop, or a computer for that matter, for $5 really isn't possible. However, if I were to really offer that and it was the truth, It doesn't matter how low the price is, they don't believe in me. And in the same manner, some of us as creatives, our pricing is hindering us from getting to higher value clients, that upper echelon, where people tend to pay $10,000, pay $20,000, and they don't really mind because they understand that they're paying for a result, or they're paying for the guarantee that you'll deliver something of high quality rather than trying to save money. So what am I trying to say? Let me give a simple example. I know of an athlete in the NFL, and their wedding day came up. And when they got married, this particular athlete was looking for a photographer. They did not want to look at any photographer that was under $15,000. This means that if you are a great photographer and have skills, but you're charging $3,000 for weddings or $5,000 for weddings, they don't see you because in their mind, you're too low quality. Now, let's be real. If you're a photographer, and I've even done some photography, some of it is shot selection. A lot of it is lighting, right? Some of it is being able to capture a moment. You have an eye for photography. Some of it is post-production. You sit down at a computer and you edit things a certain way, and you just bring out different things to focus on in an image. So yeah, all those are good skills of a photographer. And just because you're charging $3,000, that doesn't mean you can't produce work that looks like $15,000. However, as I just mentioned this example, that celebrity would never find you because your price is too low. So this introduces the other side of the equation, which is really, okay, even if you're not charging that much, how can someone perceive or really look at, hey, this person is really good. Regardless of what they're charging, I see they have the quality. Now, unfortunately, high value clients don't have a lot of time to search and look through everybody's portfolio and search for days or weeks to try to find somebody, right? So they start introducing things as cutoff points to weed out or filter out all these other people. A lot of times price is something they use to weed out people. So this introduces perception. Now, the question I would really ask to anyone watching is, how do people perceive you? That's a hard question to answer because a lot of times, we have our own biases, myself included. You may do something and you think that it's good enough, but you really don't know what other people's impressions are of your work. But here's a good example. You can do this right now. So if you're listening, you can hit pause and go do this. Go on Google and type in your name or the name of your business. What comes up on Google search results? This also works on YouTube, right? Because YouTube is the world's second largest search engine. Google is first, but YouTube is connected to Google. So you can search on YouTube, search your name or your business name. What comes up? And if nothing is coming up for you, I'll say it like this. A lot of times, high value clients or somebody who's looking for a creative that can do high value things, they are going to search for you. And they may stumble across your LinkedIn, your Twitter, your Instagram. They may find random things on Google. They may try to look for videos that talk about your work. And if nothing is showing up that shows how valuable you are, they start to think, does this person really have high value to offer? This introduces the concept of you need to create content. This is why you need to write blog articles or record different videos and put them up on YouTube, or go on podcasts and become a guest on a podcast. Start your own podcast, whatever it might be. Go on Quora.com and answer a lot of questions that are specific to the area and the niche that you serve. Whatever it might be, you need to start curating and creating content to show your level of expertise and show what you know. Now, I know somebody's out there thinking, how can I really have something to offer? There's people out there like Gary Vee. There's people out there like Chris Do in the future. There's people out there putting all this content out there like Pat Flynn of Smart Passive Income. I can't compete with them. I can't keep up with their content. Why make content at all? There's people out there like Roberta Blake who talk about everything related to business. I can't keep up. I can't compete. Here's the thing. You don't need to compete with them. You need to compete with yourself. You're not making content for the masses. You're not making content to go viral. You're not making content to get thousands of views. You're making content so when someone is thinking about making the decision on whether or not you are a high value expert, when they type something in on the computer, they find something that gives a pointed example of the value you have to offer. Simply put, when I search on Google, when I search on YouTube, something needs to come up that shows your level of expertise. Now, for someone who's out there and they're really thinking, I don't have all this time, it doesn't matter. You need to start somewhere. And if you haven't already started, I would say you're behind. So you need to play catch up. So it doesn't matter what you need to do, but nothing is not an option. You need to do and produce something today, this week, next week. You need to do something now. Now, if you need some ideas, here's a list. You can make sure that you're putting out content on social networks, whether that's Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest. Behance is a highly underestimated platform in terms of showing your creative skill. Behance is a great community. Dribbble, LinkedIn, and even Twitter. Start there. Start putting things on social media on a consistent basis. If you're not sure which one to use, choose at least 3 of these. Start putting content out there, and whatever is resonating, go all in on that particular one. When it comes to writing, you need to show that you're an effective communicator and communicate your thoughts as an expert. Write articles on your own website. Contact other popular websites and ask them for guest articles. Write on medium.com. Create your own ebook or your short guide. I mentioned videos earlier. On YouTube, make content. Maybe you want to do something that's a little bit more cinematic, right? Or a documentary, or even an interview. Hire someone to interview you, or get one of your friends to interview you and ask you certain questions about business and providing value for businesses, and you just give your thoughts and your answer to it, and you make that video accessible and searchable just so people can stumble upon it. Podcast. Start your own podcast and submit it to different places like iTunes, Google Podcasts, or Spotify, Stitcher, TuneIn, it doesn't matter. Or be a guest on different podcasts, right? Podcasts are always looking for guests. There's hundreds, if not thousands, of podcasts out there, and you can be on them. And communities, you need to go to conferences or go to meetups. This is a list of things you can do today to create content, as I mentioned, not to get popular, so that when someone is really trying to check on if you can provide high value, they stumble upon all this content and they're able to see you have something to offer. Gone are the days where people go to your website and then they use your work in your portfolio to validate on whether or not you can help them, right? It's a part of them making a decision. Your website is not an unbiased third party, right? So people like to use Google as an unbiased third party to see, let me see if this person really has something to offer. And when they look and they see in other places you've provided value, even if that value is just advice, you're that much more closer to bridging the gap between your creative skill and working with high value clients. So really quick, let's review 2 things. We're talking about positioning. We're talking about where you fall and fit in the market. And simply put, it's 2 things. Price. So some of us today, you might need to revisit what you're charging for your prices. Don't just arbitrarily increase your price, right? I have videos and content on how to do that, and I'll put that in a link in the description. But simply put, if you need to raise your price, that might get you in a different segment of the market that's willing to pay something more. And the second half of what I talked about is perception. You need to start shaping how people perceive you as an expert by creating content, right? Trust me, at first, it may seem like a lot of work. It may seem like it's pointless, but it does matter. What happened with me is I worked with clients in the past. I was barely able to charge $1,000, $2,000, and they were negotiating with me. I was on the segment of the market I like to call "Give me a hookup." But when I started producing content and putting things out there and showing my knowledge and my expertise, whether someone's asking me questions or not, and just showing and telling and teaching everything that I know, when I started doing that, I would come back and say, that's $6,000, that's $8,000, that's $10,000. And I wasn't met with a negotiation. I wasn't met with someone trying to discount my prices because they saw I had a lot of value to offer. And this also started changing me to a different segment of the market and moved me closer to luxury and premium. So again, those are the two things: pricing and perception. Thank you for taking the time to check out this episode. I greatly appreciate it. If you liked anything I had to say, give this video a thumbs up. If you are listening on the podcast, give it a review. I want to hear what it is that you have to say. As I mentioned, I just wanted to really talk about pricing and perception as it relates to the umbrella of positioning and how that all works and relates to that. The video that I did, Agency of One, it will be coming soon, and you'll see the full talk where I talk a little bit more about what else you can do besides positioning to work with high value clients. But right now, I just appreciate the time you took to listen or watch this episode. Well, until the next one, I will catch you later. See ya.